Zhang Yaosheng never dreamed he'd die so miserably, so cheaply, at the age of 65. That year, at the tail end of winter, the sea wind still carried a chill that cut right through to the bones. He was out at sea with the old boat owner he'd worked for most of his life one last trip. The pay was barely settled when the old boss dragged him to the back deck for a couple of shots of hard liquor. The booze shot straight through the gaps in his teeth, up to his brain. He knew perfectly well that at his age, his gut couldn't handle liquor anymore, but he couldn't refuse when the young deckhands clapped him on the back, cheering, "Old Zhang's still tough as nails." Third Master Zhang never admits he's old. He grinned with the few teeth he had left, sucked in the salty wind, and felt a foolish sense of pride. Who could have known that a bit of drunken bravado and half a bladder's worth of piss would send him straight to the bottom? He staggered to the railing, one hand gripping the freezing iron bar, the other fumbling with his waistband. He never even got to relieve himself. A massive wave smashed over the deck. His feet slipped. The back of his head cracked against the railing with a sickening thud, and before he knew it, blood-tinged seawater flooded his nose and mouth, choking him so hard he couldn't even cough. In that instant, he didn't think of anything but random scraps of his miserable life flickered through his mind. Getting caught stealing fish at the village pond as a teenager, the clan elder scolding him until he cursed back through gritted teeth. His wedding day so poor he could only afford 3 tables of guests, borrowing bowls and plates from next door. His wife, driven to tears and coughing up blood by his worthless temper, his son cowering in a patched cotton jacket at the doorway, shrinking from the cold. He'd always dreamed of living free and easy, but in the end, he still died at sea, a pathetic old man with nothing to show for it. But fate, it seemed, still had the appetite for a cruel joke. When he opened his eyes again, there was no sound of waves. Instead, there was the sharp thump of fists pounding a table, mixed with angry voices so loud they made his eardrums ache. The air didn't smell of salt water, but of damp earth walls, the faint musk of a brick house, the warmth of a Kong bed's charcoal embers, and a whiff of smoke drifting from the neighbor's kitchen stove. Zhang Yaosheng found himself standing in the corner of the main room, a stalk of wild grass clamped between his teeth, grinding so hard it creaked. Right before him stood an old square table, one leg propped up with crumpled newspaper, and flanking it 2 red-faced men yelling so hard their neck veins bulged. Zhang Guoan, Zhang Qiaovu, his 2 oh-so-familiar older brothers. In his last life, it all started with them barging in to demand a cut of his fish money. From that day on, they sucked his family dry. His wife cried herself to death. His child grew up half-starved, and he ended up dying like a dog, drowned in the sea. This time Zhang Yaosheng narrowed his eyes, the grass stem rolling between his teeth. It felt like someone whacked him across the skull, snapping him wide awake. He was alive again. He glanced at the faint shadow on the mud wall. Smooth skin, not a wrinkle in sight. Arms solid as a young punk who'd just finished a brawl. This wasn't some decrepit old corpse, this was him at 25, the year he'd just patched up that rotten boat, bursting with dreams of turning his luck around with his own 2 hands. A low laugh bubbled up in his throat, but he kept it silent. Instead, He bit down on the grass stalk so hard it cracked between his teeth. Third brother. Don't play dead in the corner. Dad's old boat was our family's lifeline. Now you sail back with fish and stay quiet trying to hog it all for yourself. Hey. Zhang Yaosheng slammed the table again, rattling cups and bowls like a war drum. Zhang Yaosheng sniped in with his sneer. Big brother's right. You fixed the boat on your own. Who knows what tricks you've hidden from us. Now you haul in a big catch and want to keep it secret too. Zhang Yaosheng's gaze shifted to the Kong bed. Father Zhang Yaosheng sat there, pipe tapping nervously against the brick edge, face lined deep with creases, forehead veins pulsing but not daring to say a word. A pang hit Yaosheng's chest. In his past life, he resented the old man for being spineless, unable to stand up to his sons. But this time around, he understood perfectly. It wasn't his spinelessness. It was an old man so scarred by poverty, terrified of losing face, terrified the clan would gossip, terrified of sons brawling over the family's only roots. But in this life, as long as Zhang Yaosheng was here, no brotherly bloodsucker would strip the Zhang family down to the bones. He spit out this talk, walked slowly up to the table, lifted his hand. Bang! The table shook so hard it nearly jumped. Both brothers clamped their mouths shut. Old Zhang Yaosheng's pipe clattered onto the Kong with a dull clunk. Zhang Yaosheng's lips curled up, his grin dripping cold malice right through his crooked teeth. Want a share? Fine by me. But who was it back then calling the boat worthless scrap, refusing to touch even a plank, demanding silver instead? Now the boat's sailing. You two crawl in here with your claws out for fish money, whereas your face has stuffed down your pants. Zhang Yaosheng's face flushed crimson in an instant. He opened his mouth, ready to curse. But before he could utter a word, Zhang Yaosheng grabbed him by the collar like hauling up a dead chicken and dragged him straight toward the door. Zhang Yaosheng panicked and jumped up to block him. Third. Let us talk this through. We're family. Don't make a scene outside and embarrass us. Zhang Yaosheng sneered, not loosening his grip but instead lifting Zhang Yaosheng higher so his toes barely touched the ground. Embarrassed? If you're afraid of losing face, then keep your mouth shut and quarrel inside. Whoever keeps barking, I'll drag them out and let the whole village judge who's right. Zhang Yaosheng was dangling by the neck, veins bulging as he squeezed out a hoarse protest. You're crazy. You dare throw your own big brother out. Zhang Yaosheng squinted at him, eyes glinting as he spotted the pulsing veins on Yaosheng's neck. Suddenly, he chuckled, a laugh laced with a bitter coldness forged from a past life's regrets. Not only do I dare throw you out, I dare smash that filthy mouth of yours. Didn't he beat you enough last time? This life I'll make up for it. With that, he gave a mighty fling. Zhang Yaosheng yelped, landed butt first in the yard's frost-covered dirt with a loud thud. Zhang Yaosheng hurried after him and grabbed his arm. Big brother, just hold it in. Don't blow this up. The whole village's watching. But before he could finish, Zhang Yaosheng turned to the gate and shouted, voice sharp as a blade but wearing a mocking grin. Hey! Everyone with time to spare, come see. Look at my two dear elder brothers. Back then they called the old boat worthless, took the silver but refused to fix it. Now that I've patched it up and nearly died fishing at sea, they show up wanting a share. Come on, come listen. See how thick their skins are. His shout carried far and wide. Neighbors already up fetching water or cooking breakfast stopped and flocked around the yard wall. In no time, over a dozen people had gathered. A young woman with a bundle of firewood on her back cupped her hands around her mouth and called out, "Hey, third. What's going on? Fighting with your big brothers again?" One of them tossed outside. Zhang Yaosheng stood with hands on his hips, voice booming loud enough to shake the roof. "Fight? If our family had any reason on their side, would I need to fight? When the family split, the rotten boat was dumped on my father, not an extra copper given. When it broke, Dad gritted his teeth to fix it. I patched it up myself and nearly died at sea to feed the house. And now they want to share my fish money. You folks tell me, do they have any shame?" The crowd erupted into chuckles and snickers. Who in the village didn't know Zhang Yaosheng and Zhang Yaosheng were freeloaders? Back when their old mother was still alive, they had at least some sense to keep up appearances. But now she was gone, and these two brothers had gotten bolder, hiding behind the excuse of blood brothers to snatch what they hadn't earned. No one was blind to it. Zhang Yaosheng scrambled up from the dirt, his face red as a monkey's backside, trying to salvage some dignity. "Ahem. Third, that's not fair talk. We're all family. Ha 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 ha." Zhang Yaosheng doubled over laughing, shoulders shaking from how hard he laughed. When he straightened up, his eyes were icy knives. "Family, you got a shred of shame. If you do, drag your asses back inside and drink hot tea like decent men. If not, wait here for the village chief to settle this. Anyone dares open their mouth for a cut, I'll make them pay back every copper and their belt too." Murmurs spread through the crowd at the gate. Several old villagers shook their heads, chuckling. This young third really flipped his temper. Used to be soft-spoken. Now tisk, just like his late mother, sharp-tongued and tough as nails. Zhang Yaosheng was already sweating bullets. Unlike Zhang Yaosheng, he still cared about his reputation. He knew that if this carried on, they'd lose even more face. He tugged at his elder brother's arm. "Big brother, let us go. Enough humiliation. You know how stubborn third is. Keep pushing, and how are we supposed to face the village after this?" Zhang Yaosheng's face turned from red to white and back again. At last, he grunted out a muffled curse, gritting his teeth as he let his younger brother drag him away. The excitement at the gate slowly dispersed. A few kids peeked curiously at Zhang Yaosheng, eyes wide with fresh fear and new respect. Zhang Yaosheng flexed his fingers and slowly turned back. At the entrance to the house, his father Zhang Laosan still sat by the Kong, face shifting between pale and flushed. Yaosheng swallowed, stepped inside, bent down to pick up the pipe his father had dropped. He gently dusted it off and handed it back. "Dad. Embarrassed you? Hey." Zhang Laosan's eyelids trembled, lips moved as if to scold him, but in the end he only sighed. "Ah. Third, the way you were today, just like your mother when she was alive." When she first married and she was just this strong. Zhang Yaosheng's chest tightened. He managed a grin, voice hoarse with emotion. If Ma were still here, who'd dare bully our family? Dad, don't worry. From today on, Ma's gone, I'm here. Anyone tries to take a single coin from our house, I'll break their damn legs. When Zhang Yaosheng heard these words, he lifted his head to look at his son. His eyes reddened, but he stubbornly held back the tears so no one would see. He drew a deep, raspy breath, voice rough like an old bellows leaking air. Third, can you really keep this boat afloat? Don't butt heads with your brothers too hard, after all, they're still your blood. Zhang Yaosheng stepped forward, resting a firm hand on his father's bony shoulder. His voice was steady, but underneath was a steel edge sharp enough to cut. Dad, you've raised me 25 years. Now it's my turn to hold up this family, the old, the young, everyone. I'll keep fixing the boat. When spring comes, we'll mend new nets, replace the old motor. This is the foundation for the Zhang family to rise again. This time, I'll keep half the fish money to repair the boat. The rest enough to feed the family, cover our old debts. We'll never again beg for high-interest loans or bow to anyone's face. He paused, turned slightly toward the light spilling through the door, and spoke each word as solid as stone. This life, I Zhang Yaosheng will turn this rotten boat into a mountain of gold and silver. I'll see our yard packed with big nets, big barrels, big freezers. No one will ever dare come knocking for debts or handouts again. Inside the hall, Zhang Yaosheng sat frozen, staring at his son. His rough fingers trembled once, twice, then suddenly he laughed, a laugh that broke into a few ragged coughs, like decades of bitterness were finally being spat out. Good, good. I won't meddle anymore. Go on, do it your way. If you really pull this off, the Zhang family will hold our heads high, and I'll have the face to see your mother again when my time comes. At the mention of mother, Zhang Yaosheng felt a sudden sting behind his nose, but in the next heartbeat, the rising heat in his veins swallowed it whole. He grinned, grabbed the chipped teacup on the table, slammed it down with a crack. Deal. From today on, I, Zhang Yaosheng, swear this. As long as this boat doesn't sink, the Zhang family will prosper. Anyone who dares to wreck it, I'll wreck them. Anyone who tries to mooch, I'll make sure they never get back on their feet. Just as he finished, a head poked in through the doorway. It was Zhang Yaosheng, his eldest brother, 3 years older than him. Yaosheng had kept his mouth shut outside this whole time, watching as the 2 other brothers were chased off and the yard emptied out. Now he finally stepped inside, voice low and cautious. Third brother, you okay? Zhang Yaosheng looked up. Seeing it was his real big brother, his tone softened. Big brother, you're no outsider. Anyone who tries to bully you is bullying me too. This house needs people to repair the boat, run the sea. I trust you. Stick with me. Next year, we'll get a bigger boat, bigger nets. We'll earn 10 times what they ever dreamed of snatching. Hearing that, Zhang Yaosheng's eyes reddened. He nodded hard, his voice hoarse but firm. All right. I'm with you, whatever you say, we do it. The charcoal on the Kong crackled softly, the faint bitter scent of burning herbs mixed with the earthy frost drifting through the door. Zhang Yaosheng turned his head, staring at the dust motes dancing in the beam of sunlight. Deep in his chest, he was clear as day. Last life, he died a humiliated, miserable man. This time no one would siphon off a single coin, a single fish, or a single net from him again. Starting tomorrow, he'd have to plan it all. Find help to reinforce the boat, prep new nets, head to the supply co-op to check this year's fish prices, scout buyers outside the village. Once he'd scraped together enough capital, he'd hire a few of the bolder local men, form a fishing crew, and expand. Once he had the crew, the nets, the boat, he'd drag this so-called rotten boat out of the mud and lift the Zhang family up by the roots. Outside the yard, the late winter sun washed pale gold over the clay walls. Villagers in twos and threes still whispered, "This third Zhang, he's really changed this time." Turns his face as fast as a gust of wind. Who'd dare treat him like a pushover now? Standing at the threshold of the main hall, Zhang Yaosheng squinted at the sunlight. Between his teeth, he ground out a line, each word tight as iron. "One more chance. I'll flip this rotten boat upside down."